South Korea under a seasonal monsoon. Heavy rain pounded the southern region over the weekend before spreading nationwide this Monday. South Korea's education ministry is set to announce measures against excessive private education, including guidelines on dropping extremely difficult killer questions from the college entrance exam. After the Wagner group stopped its rebellious march on Moscow following a Belarus broker deal, Putin held more talks with the Belarusian president, while Washington points to cracks in Putin's leadership. Good afternoon. The seasonal monsoon rain that started over the weekend from southern regions is spreading nationwide. Heavy downpours are expected throughout the day and especially overnight for the capital and the surrounding areas. Our Yoon has more.
The monsoon season has begun in South Korea, with Jeju Island and the southern regions the first to be hit by torrential downpours. The Korea Meteorological Administration has forecasted that starting late afternoon Monday and continuing overnight, there will be a heavy rainfall of 20 to 40 millimeters per hour in the Seoul metropolitan area. Rainfall exceeding 15 millimeters per hour is considered heavy rain, and at 20 millimeters per hour, it's hard for people to even see what's in front of them. This afternoon, rainfall of 40 to 60 millimeters per hour is predicted for southern regions. Expected precipitation until tomorrow is 30 to 100 millimeters in the Seoul metropolitan area in Chungcheon region and 50 to 150 millimeters in Jeju. Rainfall is expected to weaken after tomorrow, but it's likely we'll see more rain throughout this week. The country's Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasure Headquarters has issued a Level 1 response, the lowest of 3 levels of action that can be taken during a natural disaster. It has also raised the alert level from interest to caution. This comes as a heavy rain alert issued on Jeju and southern regions on Sunday was expanded to Chungnam and Jeonbuk provinces in the early hours of Monday morning. In order to prevent casualties and damage, the government is advising people to stay away from streams and rivers that are prone to flooding. They should also refrain from visiting mountainous regions that are vulnerable to landslides. According to the presidential office on Monday, President Yoon is working in emergency mode to monitor possible damage caused by heavy rain. On Saturday, the president instructed relevant authorities to thoroughly prepare for damage, such as flooding in below ground-level homes. In response, authorities have instructed that swift evacuation is needed in case of flooding in places such as basement and underground parking lots. 신하영, Arirang News.
Today, South Korea's education ministry is set to announce measures to tackle excessive spending on private education. With just 5 months until the nation's annual college entrance exam, the primary focus is the guidelines on dropping questions that involve material not covered at school. Authorities are set to clarify what those questions are by giving actual examples of so-called killer questions from recent years, along with ways to keep the level of difficulty without needing to have those questions. The move comes after President Yoon called for making a fair college entrance exam, citing those questions for pushing students to resort to cram schools. Authorities are set to inspect cram schools for any cases of these schools making illegal profits out of killer questions, such as by recruiting examiners. Despite overall inflation seemingly easing, food prices in South Korea continue to surge, prompting the government to urge companies to reduce prices. Our Lee Soo-jin has the details.
Trips to the supermarket are putting a dent in consumers' wallets as food prices continue to rise. According to Statistics Korea on Monday, prices of ramen during the first quarter of 2023 surged more than 12%. The highest in 15 years since the 2008 global financial crisis. In September last year, South Korea's #1 instant noodle company by sales, Nongshim, raised its prices by more than 11%. This was followed by price hikes that reached nearly 10% for another major instant noodle maker, Palto, and 11% for Ottugi just 1 month later. And with international wheat prices now around 50% lower than they were when those companies hiked prices, Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho appeared on TV screens last week where he urged ramen companies to lower instant noodle prices. Consumers have also begun to voice their complaints as ramen in South Korea is considered to be an affordable staple food. But the increase in food prices has already surpassed the increase in disposable income during the first quarter. Data from Statistics Korea shows that average monthly disposable income rose 3.4% compared to the 12% rise in consumer prices of ramen. Other affordable supermarket items such as snack foods surged more than 13% and ice cream nearly 12% over the same period. The rise in the price of ice cream is also the highest since the second quarter of 2009. The price increase for bread fell slightly, but remained high at 14.3% in the first quarter after passing 15% during the first quarter of last year. And with lower grain prices apparently not yet impacting prices on the shelves, consumers will be hoping for cheaper staple food items in the second half of the year. 이수진, Arirang News.
South Korea is ranked 17th in the world in terms of logistics performance, according to the World Bank's latest Logistics Performance Index, which measures countries' ability to move goods across borders with speed and reliability. South Korea made it into the top 20 for the first time. It follows other Asian countries like Singapore ranked at the top, as well as Hong Kong at 7th, and Japan and Taiwan in joint 13th. South Korea saw notable scores for customs performance, coming in 7th, and logistics infrastructure, where it came 9th. Those are largely attributed to the country's AI-based simplified customs procedures and upgraded facilities at seaports and airports. Last week was a busy week for President Yoon, who traveled France and Vietnam. Among the key moments was the president himself taking part in South Korea's presentation in Paris, promoting Busan's bid to host the 2030 World Expo. Our top office correspondent Oh Soo-young has more.
Multilateralism was at the heart of President Yoon's diplomatic week in France and Vietnam, as he set out to deepen South Korea's economic and security ties with key regional players. In expanding Korea's network, experts say broader cooperation is crucial to South Korea's future security and prosperity, especially amid trade uncertainty and geopolitical rivalry between the United States and China.
Korea's global outreach should cover a wide range of countries, including core middle power countries that have high visibility in global affairs. European Union carries substantial importance, especially with the global governance agenda such as international law, climate change, as well as multilateral diplomacy. The European Union also considers seriously about the China issues, but has shown more inclusive stance toward the region.
In this regard, strengthening ties with France, along with Germany a month ago, was an important move as they are both heavyweight countries in the EU. The same goes for Vietnam. Yoon said he hopes Seoul-Hanoi ties will be a gateway for stronger relations with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, one of the fastest-growing regions in the world and crucial for stabilizing the Indo-Pacific region, where key maritime routes facilitate global trade. Showing support for ASEAN's role in regional peace and prosperity, Seoul pledged an extra $2 billion funding for Vietnam's development and further cooperation to build sustainable infrastructure, including smart cities and LNG production. In fact, pitching South Korea as a platform for developmental know-how and assistance, Yoon's speech in Paris to boost Korea's bid to host the World Expo 2030 in the city of Busan stood out, as he collaborated with K-pop sensations Psy and aespa's Karina. Chaebol leaders, including the heads of Samsung, LG, SK, Lotte and Hyundai, also did their part.
Topics like, for example, transition in ecology, human rights, opening to the world. These are areas where I believe the world is expecting Korea to speak. And it could be a great opportunity not only to show that people, visitors will come to Korea, will enjoy Busan, but that Korea can bring a further contribution and take a greater engagement in dealing with these topics through the expo.
By highlighting Seoul's role in promoting sustainable high-tech solutions to global issues. Experts say Yoon's streak of diplomacy comes as he paves the way to make Korea a global pivotal state, as a growing contributor and shaper of international relations. Seong, Arirang News.
Marking the 73rd anniversary of the Korean War on Sunday, President Yoon Suk-yeol said that neither the devastation caused by the war nor the veterans from South Korea and the U.S. should be forgotten. The president was speaking at a special exhibition for the 70th anniversary of the ROK-U.S. alliance at the National Museum of Korean Contemporary History. Underscoring the importance of the ROK-U.S. alliance, he pledged that the country will continue efforts to find the remains of the 120,000 Korean and 7,500 U.S. soldiers still missing since the war. Regarding the exhibition, he said the future generation is key for ROK-U.S. alliance, and it is important to remind them of the foundation and successes of the alliance. The alliance was formed in October 1953 with the signing of the ROK-U.S. Mutual Defense Treaty after the Korean War. After the Wagner group stopped its rebellious march on Moscow following a Belarus broker deal, Putin held more talks with the Belarusian president, while Washington points to cracks in Putin's leadership. Our Ising-jae has the latest.
After Wagner fighters had captured the Russian city of Rostov and came within 200 kilometers of Moscow, tensions de-escalated on Saturday as peace talks began. Citing Belarusian news agency gov't, Reuters reported that Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke with Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko for the third time in 2 days on Sunday. The talks come as Lukashenko apparently brokered a deal with the leader of the Wagner militia group to end a rebellion. In exchange, the Wagner group halted its approach to Moscow on Saturday and instead withdrew to Belarus. And despite saying that those who had taken part in the armed insurrection would be punished, as part of the agreement, the Wagner chief will face no action from the Kremlin. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Sunday that the brief mutiny by Wagner shows cracks in Russian President Vladimir Putin's role as a leader of the country.
So I think this is clearly, we see cracks emerging. This has been a devastating strategic failure for Putin across virtually every front, economic, military, geopolitical standing.
China also responded to the weekend's unrest, saying that it continues to support the efforts of the Russian leadership in stabilizing the situation. China's foreign ministry went on to add that the recent escalation in tensions in Russia was Moscow's internal affairs. Meanwhile, according to the Wall Street Journal, the U.S. has decided to keep current sanctions against the Wagner Group in place. This comes as the U.S. was initially going to add more sanctions against the militia group in relation to an ongoing mineral-related business in Africa, but that has been put on hold. Experts say the U.S. doesn't want to appear to be taking sides, making it clear that Washington does not support either the Russian government or the Wagner Group. Ising-jae, Arirang News.
Turning our attention to football, South Korea on Sunday defeated Thailand 4-1 in the quarterfinals of the U17 Asian Cup, advancing to the semifinals. That also means the Korean squad has earned a ticket to U17 World Cup. South Korea scored twice in the first half and twice in the second half to cruise past Thailand. Yoon Do-young and Kim Myung-jun were both on the score sheet and now share the lead for the most goals scored in the tournament with 4. South Korea will face the winner of Saudi Arabia and Uzbekistan in the semis on Thursday. South Korean beauty products are becoming even more popular in Vietnam that could possibly replace China as Korea's biggest cosmetic export market. According to a report by the Korea Cosmetic Association, exports of the Korean cosmetic products to Vietnam between the months of January and May this year came to nearly $187.6 million US dollars. It ranks 5th after China, the US, Japan, and Hong Kong. And while Vietnam's ranking is unchanged from the same period the year before, the growth rate increased by the most among prominent markets of 43.4%. Vietnam now makes up 5.6% of South Korea's market share for cosmetic exports. Last Sunday, June 25th, marked the 73rd anniversary of the start of the Korean War. Ahead of this day, our culture correspondent Song Yoo-jin explored the diverse ways South Korea is commemorating the Korean War and expressing gratitude to those who fought in it.
June 25th, 1950, the start of the Korean War. The war divided Korea in two and claimed the lives of more than 1 million people. Every June, people remember and honor those who fought in the war. These days, cutting-edge technology plays a key role. This lab in the city of Suwon, just south of Seoul, is where war veterans are brought back to life using the magic of artificial intelligence. With just a few clicks and a bit of typing, old blurry photos become crystal clear, bursting with color. Professor Woo Simon and his team are working wonders with an AI model called Generative Facial Prior, recovering the images of around 400 Korean War veterans.
Applying AI technology, like latest technology for something public good and socially good purpose, and acknowledging those hidden heroes and hidden war heroes and unknown war hero, we can actually acknowledge them through this opportunity is actually great.
And there's more. You can take a journey back in time with the help of augmented reality. The War Memorial of Korea, a museum dedicated to preserving the history of the Korean War, has introduced an AR game. With your smartphone and a complimentary guidebook from the museum, you become a Korean War soldier desperate to regain memories of the war. Solve puzzles and complete missions that walk you through the 3-year-long war, from its beginnings on June 1950 to the signing of the Armistice Agreement in July 1953, while exploring the museum's exhibition halls. There are also exhibitions paying homage to the war heroes. This one at the Seoul Museum of History in the city center showcases the personal belongings of war veterans, along with magazines and articles documenting the war. From battle-worn uniforms and badges to heart-wrenching photographs of war refugees, it's a solemn reminder of the sacrifices made 7 decades ago. From exhibitions to AR and AI, this is how Korea continues to honor and remember those who selflessly gave everything to save the lives of millions. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
We hear many tips for anti-aging, from medicine to supplements. None of them have been scientifically proven to be effective, but there are proven ways to achieve healthy aging, and our Kim Jung-sil reports.
From early in the morning, Professor Shin Jin-young is busy looking after patients. She and her research team at Konkuk University Medical Center recently found out that there are certain characteristics of aging shared by Korean people.
For people in South Korea, it's vital that one has physical and mental stability. And recently, we found out that social interaction within the community is very important for one's aging. This is not just in South Korea, but also in other Eastern Asian countries.
Professor Shin said simply eating together with neighbors could help senior citizens reduce depression and anxiety. Speaking of eating, though, what should we eat? And the answer is eat less.
The excess amount of calories we consume makes fat build up in our liver. That's why I tell my patients to generally eat a little bit less if possible.
Another key factor for healthy aging, exercise.
At around 70 years of age, our muscles decline about 20% from when we were in our 30s. We also naturally gain body fat and become insulin resistant. And the only way to avoid these changes known so far is through exercising.
Here at the Konkuk University Sports Medical Center, many people are exercising in the early morning. Kim Dong-hyun has been working out for about a year.
I'm exercising to stay healthy, and my body feels lighter and younger after working out.
Other than eating healthy and socializing, experts say physical exercise can also improve cognitive function. One of the world's most renowned experts in healthy aging, Dr. Charles Brenner, recently visited South Korea and said it's important to keep our feet on the ground when it comes to anti-aging.
There's some people that have some unrealistic expectations that they're not going to age at all. I don't think that that's realistic, but I think that you can age better.
He added that mom's advice is the key, meaning good nutrition, good physical and mental activity, social engagement, and avoiding smoking, drinking, and overeating. 김정실, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In Greece, parliamentary elections over the weekend saw the country's ruling party win an outright majority. According to official results on Sunday from almost 96% of voting centres, the conservative New Democracy Party clinched just over 40% of the vote, giving them 158 seats in the 300-seat parliament. The party's leader, Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis, had called the election to try to win that majority, after falling a few seats short in a previous election in May. The sitting PM ran on a platform of increasing salaries, reducing inequality, and providing better and free public health care. Moving over to Sweden, one person has died and 9 others were injured on Sunday after a roller coaster derailed. 3 of the wounded are in serious condition. According to eyewitnesses at the Gröna Lund amusement park in Stockholm, riders on the Jetline roller coaster were sent to the ground after it partly came off its tracks. There were 14 people on board at the time. The 140-year-old park has been closed while the police conduct an investigation into the crash. The Jetline ride has a top speed of 90 km per hour and reaches a maximum height of 30 meters. In the U.S. state of California, human remains have been found in an area where a British actor went missing half a year ago. According to reports, a group of hikers on Saturday morning discovered the remains in the San Gabriel Mountains near Mount Baldy. Actor Julian Sands went missing there in mid-January while hiking in bad weather. The remains have been handed over to the local coroner's office, and identification is expected to be complete by next week. Sands is best known for roles in the Oscar-winning film A Room with a View and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. He also appeared in TV dramas including 24 and Smallville. And finally, the world's ugliest dog has been crowned. Meet Scooter, a 7-year-old hairless Chinese-crested canine. The pup was given this year's title on Friday at the world's ugliest dog contest in Petaluma, California. Scooter has an almost permanent droopy tongue that hangs outside his mouth and was born with deformed back legs. But he manages to get by using his 2 front legs. According to judges, it was Scooter's uniqueness and charm that won them over. Held annually, the contest showcases dogs that have defied adversity and aims to promote adoption. Second place was taken by a 7-year-old Pekingese called Wild Fang, while third was claimed by a Chihuahua estimated to be 17 years old. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. The monsoon season began a few days later than usual nationwide, and usually southern regions are hit with monsoon rain first, but that's not the case this year. Heavy rain is soaking the country, and expect to see heavier rain in the commuting hours with up to 100 millimeters of rain in the forecast in central regions until Tuesday. Meanwhile, Jeju Island could see up to 200 millimeters with a strong wind advisory being in place. Well, Sunday was a super muggy one with unbearable heat and humidity. But today, along with showers, most regions are having heat relief this afternoon. Top readings going down 1 to 7 degrees lower than yesterday afternoon. Afternoon highs in most parts are in the mid-20s. Daegu at about 27, Daejeon at 25 degrees this afternoon. Now, monsoon rain is forecasted all through the week with short breaks in between in central regions during the day. So please keep an umbrella handy. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of the day.